last session of chapter 10. So we will discuss in this part a new topic, relatively not exactly about the exception. It's more about binary files. However, exceptions are also included within this question. Let's go directly to the question. Convert the contents of scores.txt. This is the file we created in question 2 to binary format. That means scores.dat. This is a binary format. Write a simple code to confirm that the file has been properly created. So we have two parts. First, we need to convert the file to binary format. Then the second part, we need to create a simple code to read the data from the binary format and convert it to a readable format that we can visualize and see. Well, you may ask me, why are you doing this? What's the point? First is scores.txt actually is a readable file, a file that we can open by any text editor and check. And usually this kind of format is recognized by human beings. So things that we can read or make sense out of. But for the second type, this binary type, usually we don't have exact way for us human beings to understand it. Rather, it's just coded series of ones and zeros. So you might think about security. Well, in this case, if someone could reach to your file, we wouldn't be able to read it properly unless he or she converts it back to text, if they understand that it is text. In other cases that we may not have exactly application for .text, we may have for .dat. Some applications like you may think about signal or image processing. We may have source file with a binary format, not text actually. The other thing is we have more functionality for binary files. They are less loaded with some more versatile methods. That's why we may need to convert between these formats. So after this short explanation, let's directly go to the NetBeans and start coding. So what's requested from us? I will divide this into two main programs, two programs. And basically, that means I'll create two main methods and run two separate codes to manage the requirements of the question. The first one is asking us to create a binary file and store the data within or inside or to this binary file. In order for us to create a binary file, we need to use DataInput and this will allow us to create a file streaming format, out file in this case, because we are speaking about out file means a file that we open for writing. So we write data to it. Let me go to new line so that it will be more readable. A new, we did write new. So we need to create from the same data type, data output stream. So from the output stream, we need to get what? We need to get an object file of what? New object file of my file that I would like to open it for reading. So out file output stream. Okay. Now we need to provide the file that we are going to read. So our file's name was scores.txt. Okay. Now there are a few things I have to discuss or consider. Initially, we have to import the I/O library. Why these two stream, or the stream, the file output stream and the data output stream, both of them are available in java.io, the input and output, the package of input and output. Let me import all of it actually, asterisk. That will help us to overcome having the separate definitions of these listed individually. One more thing now, because this code potentially may throw an exception, we can, for shortening the time, I can throw here an error that throws an input output exception. This is possible so that we may say that the whole main method is potentially throwing an exception. So that will help us to overcome the details of writing separate try and catch. We explained it so we don't have to write it again. That's my point. In this case, I need to create some sort of scanning object. So I need to use scanner. So scanner in file. Okay. Why? Because I'm scanning from a file that I just opened. Okay. Equals new scanner. Okay. And now what I'm going to provide, the object file that I just created a minute ago, new file. And now I'm opening this file for reading. Let me properly write the name of the file, scores. I'm sorry, this is not .text. We are creating .det. Why? Because we need to store it to binary file. I just remember why I'm opening this one .text. So you may tell me, okay, what's the point of opening this file? Well, if I want to convert the data of the file or the data available in this file to data of binary or to a file that has binary data, then we need to open the file for reading. Otherwise, we will not be able to read data from it. Let me just manage this rhythm. Yeah, okay, that's better. All right, now for sure we didn't import the scanner, so I can import it, or I can just ask directly the utility to come from this line. Okay, I have created the proper objects for the streaming, for the output streaming, for creating the out file of my binary file, and I open also the file which is available already in my you can say folder or my computer's disk for reading. So now we can read data from the text file and convert it to binary and store it in the binary file. Okay, in order for us to do that, let's do one simple step, double score, because we are reading scores and they are double. So now I can create a loop to start from the beginning of the file until the end. Which file? In file, the file that we just opened for reading, dot, has next. So this method will allow me to loop from the beginning of the file until its end. Now what we are going to read? We're going to read scores, okay, equals in file dot next double. We need the double, each double available in this file one by one. I read this double. What should I do? I need to print it to the file or store it to the out file. Okay, so I have the object out file dot print. No, not print. I'm very sorry. Print is for actually the normal text file. Write double. This will allow us to write a double to the binary file. Okay, this method. There are other methods: write integer int, write byte, write UTF, for example, for the universal Unicode text format if you want to write a line, and so on. There are many different methods of writing. You can go through them in order for you to see which application suits your implementation or the question. So now I have read the data from a file and stored it from text file and stored it to a binary file. Now what should I do? Close the file that I opened for reading. Both of them actually. This is the reading file I should close in file dot close, and also we should close the file I opened for writing dot close. And you should know why we do this. It has a reason. Well, we can display a statement that we are done with writing data into the file. Done processing, maybe. That's enough for this. Well, this will do. Let's just run the program. We don't. Oh, there is an exception. Of course, for sure, there is an exception in this case. Let me check. IO exception. Cannot specified. Okay, scores. Yes, of course, I have a mistake in the file name. Let me rerun again. Okay, that will do. So that one was an exception because it was my actually typo. I mistyped the name of the file. So the file is processed and it is written. Let's just go to another file or actually code, source code file, and check whether really my program is fit or not, whether what I wrote did do the process required or not. So in order for us to create an opening stream, we need to start or initiate an object for a data input stream. Earlier we used the output stream for creating an output or output for a binary file. Okay, so now we need to create an input file which is actually of binary format, input stream same, and then we need to provide here the object of the file, new file input stream, and we need to provide we need to provide our file itself. What's the name of the file here? The name of the file is scores.dat. Alright, now of course we will have these swirly lines. The first thing I have to throw the exception, IO exception. Well, this IO exception is a definition. You can import its package, or let me put an asterisk for bringing all of them. I don't have to repeat for each and every one of them. Now, the idea of reading data from binary file is a bit different. Why? Because we don't exactly have a way to mark the end of file like has next. Text file will allow you to keep looping as long as you have a next line to read. Once you don't have any next line to read, you reach to the end of the file, it will stop automatically. We don't have that kind of mechanism, so we need to improvise. Improvise by doing what? We can create a Boolean variable, and this variable in this case, I can call it flag or end of file or whatever you like. I will initialize it to false at the beginning. And let's also create a variable for score. Why? Because we are reading scores. Now what I'm going to do, I will say while this flag is not equal to false. Okay, not flag. Okay. So while is not equal to false, that means while it's true for the time being. Keep looping and do what? Try. And I'll tell you why I'm using try. So I create this try block. Why? So this block will help me to find the end of the file. I will say score. Score is what? Read in file. So I created this object file that will help me to read from a double from the binary file. Okay. And then what I'm going to do? Well, let me display it so that I see whether my data that I printed to the file is fine or not. So I'll just check. It is just for confirming whether the data that I printed to the file is fine or not. Okay, catch. So this is an exception to be caught. So what kind of exception? End of file exception. What happens is exactly, let me just type it and then I will explain to you. Just let me finish this one so that it will be easier for me to explain. Flag equals true. Now before we proceed, now look, try and catch. What happens? Try will keep on processing as long as an exception is not raised. So what will happen? The exception will be raised when the end of file is reached. So we will send it to catch to process it. And what will happen? In catch block, flag will change to true and this one will be terminated. And this is exactly what we are doing, and that's what I said we need to improvise. So once we are done with this while loop, let me get out of the while loop. Okay. Once we are done with the while loop, that means we are done with reading from the file and displaying to the screen. I can close the infile object, and once we close it this way, we are done with processing, all the processing job. Now we open the file, the binary file for reading. We use the data input stream to create the in file for binary. It's an object file file for binary, what kind of object do we need to provide or we need to pass to this stream, input stream, data input stream? We need to provide file input stream with the name of the binary file. That means whatever the name .dat. Okay. Now, for looping through all the data available in the file, we need to improvise. As I said, we need to create a loop, and this loop, we need to specify a certain, you can say, flag, which is always true until we get the exception of end of file. Once we get it, we change the flag to true, and that will terminate our loop. Let's run. Well, that's it. These are the scores available in my file. I store them earlier by myself. You can do it, you can try. Actually, I stored 80, 90, 100, but I ran again one more time, and I put 4 actually, to make sure that my file contains new data. Why? Because we tried with 100, if you remember, and there was an exception, so I rerun after I stopped the video, and I provided this data so that we can run it. No problem, you can just make sure that your file has proper data for this application, and you can convert it to binary data or .dat, and then after that you can open it for reading and transfer the data using this method. I hope you guys enjoy this session, and this is the end of this chapter. One thing I have to tell you, please have a look, consider it as an assignment or a task at home, since you actually have plenty of time now. Please check serializing, how we can serialize a file, how we can convert it to a certain type, and how we can read in different ways. One of them is the random access method, for example. Check them. This is very good for you as an application. You may need to have such a method when you design a project or something like that. So please look into them. If you have any problem, feel free to reach me or to text me or send you can say a question or whatever, like I have a problem with this and that. But my sincere advice, have a look into them and try to get some idea about how we serialize files and what kind of applications we use with them. Until the sessions of next chapter, have a good time. Goodbye.